How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to be discussing one of my favourite tanks throughout the game's history, the Guardian Druid. I mained this back in the day when it was actually still a feral tank Druid. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this spec throughout my time playing this game. But this patch I decided I wanted to go monk because I felt it was just more viable for the content I was trying to push. So yeah, without further ado though, let's jump into the Druid, because I personally believe a lot of the changes that are coming in Shadowlands, and not to mention just these base changes that we're going to discuss here, will have a hugely good impact for the Guardian Druid. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. So for the Druids, we're going to take a quick look at some of the baseline abilities that are coming back first. So Cyclone, I believe it was a PvP talent throughout BFA. Finally coming back to the toolkit. It's a fairly useful CC. It gives you, like, you can incapacitate a target for 6 seconds basically, but only one target at a time. So yeah, you know, sort of like it's pretty much the norm really. So yeah, it's nice to see a former CC coming back. We also have, for baseline Druids, like, doesn't matter what spec, Ferocious Bite, which is like a finishing spender that feral Druids use. And to be fair, it does a fair amount of damage, and I actually believe with the changes coming this patch and from Shadowlands, we're actually going to be able to utilise our cat build a lot more in an off-tank situation. Say if you know you're going to be, right, I've got my stacks, the swap's coming soon, you can actually jump into your cat form and start doing a fairly, I'd say, decent amount of damage. I wouldn't know what kind of damage people will get out of it. That's just something that's going to have to be seen through time. But I know with having Ferocious Bite as a baseline, it's just a good little change. Like, it can be a killing blow while you're leveling or something like that if you were a healer and you wanted to go cat form or whatever. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that change and playing around with balanced Druid. I'm used to it now because I've bloody mained it all this patch. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how people use it in raids, and personally I think I'll be running with Feral Affinity if I do say so myself. But we've actually got a returning ability as well in the space of all the specs anyway, because we actually all baseline get Stampeding Raw now also, so it makes Druid that much more, I don't know, like I'd say it's going to become quite normal to see runs taking a fair amount of Druids, be it whether it's Restore Druids, Balanced Druids, Feral Druids, and I'm not holding my breath, and obviously Guardian Druids with the changes that are being implemented. So basically with Stampeding Raw, it's a massive movement speed increase, 60% for all friendly players within 15 yards. So if you're in a raid and you know there's a phase where you've got to move, this is an absolutely mind-blowing cooldown to have. I remember in Legion, like, it's one of the main things I actually missed about coming from Legion to BFA, was because I wasn't playing Guardian anymore and there wasn't really anybody playing Guardian. Like, I just missed having it as a cooldown, so I'm just really happy to see that all specs can have that now, even if I do decide to play balance in the end. I'm not too sure yet, but I most definitely will be playing tank. So after that, in our main tank spellbook, so the Guardian spellbook, we have one significant change, and it's one that I kind of have wanted for the longest time, and we are actually getting Berserk back. So if you don't know what Berserk is, it was an ability back in the day where it was pretty much an offensive cooldown. So I think what a lot of tanks have lacked over the space of BFA, particularly monks and even druids, have lacked is offensive cooldowns, whereas like warriors have their avatar on a relatively short cooldown, also affected by, you know, getting them revenges and stuff off. So it's just, you know, I think it's a welcome change to be able to have something to pop if we want to get a bit of damage out there. So if you don't know what it is, you go Berserk 15 seconds, reducing the cooldowns of Mangle, Thrash, Growl and Frenzy Regeneration by 75%, and the cost of Iron Fur by 50%, which is, obviously Iron Fur wasn't really a thing back in the day, so that's sort of like an added bonus, and that's going to be really strong. Say if you've got like a really defensive phase coming up, or if you just know that you've got to make that push and you need the boss to die and you need to kill things quickly, you know, it's a nice cooldown to be able to have, even with your potion at the start of a fight as well. You know, just popping some offensive abilities, because I know that's one of the most fun aspects about playing a prop warrior for me at the minute, is because their offensive capability is just so fantastic. So I'm looking forward to see what this does. It is on a 3-minute cooldown though, but we'll have to see how that plays out. We might be able to trim it down a little bit during Shadowlands. I'm not too sure. Like I say, I do not have the beta, so I can't really test these things. But it'd be nice to be able to like bring that cooldown down just a little bit. So yeah. As we level up as well, we're actually going to unlock Frenzy of Regeneration Rank 2, which it basically increases all the healing that you receive from all sources by 20%. So this is going to be a massive and relatively frequent cooldown to have. Like you're going to be able to get a lot of healing from all this stuff, because it's just, you use it so frequently. Like as a Guardian Druid, especially through BFA, there've been times where I've had to pop this really, really early. So if you, like, rather than having to pop, say, 2, like, to make sure that you stay topped up, just to be able to pop 1 and then let the healers in the group do their job, you know, and it's just a massive help for everyone involved, because I know it's probably hard to keep a Guardian up at the start of the fight, to be honest. So yeah, that'll be a really, really welcome change, and that comes at level 52. So Survival of the Fittest is also on a reduced cooldown, so it's a 2-minute recharge, and yeah, you get 2 charges of it, just like in BFA. So yeah, this is, you know, a welcome change as well. Like it's a massively defensive cooldown, so it reduces your damage taken by 50%. 2 charges of it. It makes you really, really tanky, and a lot of fights, if the Druid survivability upon a pull isn't actually, you know, good enough, I could see people maybe having to pop this at the start of a few fights. So yeah, and Bark Skin is also on a reduced cooldown as well. Where you at? Even you're just being the base Druid. Oh yeah, just making me look stupid. There it is. Yep, so that's on a 40-second cooldown, and Bark Skin's just a defensive, and it's a really, really good defensive to have class wide, and we do have it like as a class throughout BFA anyway. So yeah, it's just on a reduced cooldown. So now we're actually going to be looking at the talent tree that we have for Guardian Druid in Shadowlands. So to start things off, there's no change on the first row, but I'll probably either be running Blood Frenzy, because I do a lot of dungeon runs with this guy. Like this is probably like the guy I want to do a bit more Mythic Plus with next expansion. So I find it just more useful, because the bigger pulls that you get, although we now have an AoE cap, I feel like the amount of time that we spend doing AoE damage with Thrash will just make it far more worth it, because it gives you more rage, and the more rage that you get, the more Iron Furs you can use. So I feel like the more targets you get, the stronger your capability is to be tanky as a Guardian Druid in that respect. Or I'll probably just use Brambles for the passive defensive and the passive nature damage when my Bark Skin's active. But Bristling Fur probably could be good, but you'd probably have to be more geared to use it, because you don't really want to be taking any unnecessary damage in order to build rage. Like I know your defensive ability comes up, but you kind of just want that consistency rather than the cooldown, even though it is only 40 seconds. So Ursul's Vortex on the second row has been replaced with Renew, which is a healing cooldown, 30% of your health. Could be really strong, and it could be really nice in a raid scenario, so I think it's probably going to be the one that I take, to be fair. Wild Charge is there, which obviously it just gives you your charge ability as a Druid, so nothing majorly new there. But yeah, the Renewal is a really strong addition to the toolkit, I believe, so I think it's a welcome change, especially paired up with Frenzy Regeneration. It could actually go really, really well, to be fair, and just make us that bit more sustainable, or self-sustainable. And obviously there's Tiger's Dash, which is your massive burst of speed, so 200%, and then it gradually reduces over 5 seconds. But if you're ever in a tight situation where you feel like, oh crap, I might not make it out this mechanic, something's going to go off, I need to get away from the raid, that is a really, really good talent to have. So it's all situational, and it honestly is whatever you prefer, but I think I'm going to find myself running with Renewal, to be completely honest. And for the next row, with the addition of Ferocious Bite to every spec as a baseline, I feel like with the gear that Guardians have to wear anyway, it's probably going to be the most viable option for us to actually start using our off-tank windows to actually do some, some actual damage to the boss or the ads or whatever. So, in all honesty, I see this being quite powerful. I think a lot of people are going to find ways to get stupid amounts of damage out of it, but it's one of them we'll have to see. But it's the one I think I'm going to be putting my money on for now, until I test it out in the actual Shadowlands content. I do believe it's actually going to be quite strong. So, yeah. And then we have a new one on the 35 row, which is Heart of the Wild. So, Heart of the Wild, abilities associated with your chosen affinity are substantially empowered, for 45 seconds. So, because I'm with Feral Affinity, damage of your Feral ability is increased by 30%, which is again an increase to that Ferocious Bite. And critical strikes with attacks that generate a combo point generate an additional combo point. So basically, off tank windows, we're going to be wanting to use that. It is a 5-minute cooldown, it is a fairly lengthy cooldown, but I do still think it's a decent ability, considering that Mass Entanglement, it has its niches, but it's kind of a fight say like Skitra, where you can see the wall coming towards you and you kind of need to stop them all. So you just throw your roots out there, and that's them out of sight, out of mind, and you can eventually down them because it lasts a stupid amount of time. So yeah, Mass Entanglement could be a viable option. And then there's obviously Mighty Bash, which is basically just stuns the target for 4 seconds. I don't really entertain this talent very often, so I think Mass Entanglement for certain fights and Heart of the Wild for maybe more damage button focused fights. So after that, I'm probably just going to go with Soul of the Forest again. So Mangle generates 5 more rage and deals 25% more damage. Galactic Guardian, I suppose, can be a good one, because it's just extra damage on your Moonfire basically. So your damage has a 5% chance to trigger a free automatic Moonfire on the target. When this occurs, the next Moonfire you cast generates 8 rage and deals 300% increased direct damage. The RNG of this is probably the reason I don't play it as much. Soul of the Forest is kind of constant. I use my Mangle a lot more than I do my Moonfire. And there's obviously the cooldown section, which is Incarnation, Guardian and Versok. So an empowered bear form that reduces the cooldowns of Mangle, Thrash, Growl and Frenzy Veneration by 75%. Reduces the cost of Iron Fur by 50% and causes Mangle to hit up to 3 targets and an increased maximum of 30% health. So yeah, it replaces Berserk basically. I don't feel the need for it, to be honest. I just think go with a permanent DPS increase. And yeah, I kind of tend to just leave Guardian Versok out, to be honest. Next row is Earth Warden. So when you deal direct damage with Thrash, you gain a charge of Earth Warden, reducing the damage of the next auto attack you take by 30%. Earth Warden may have up to 3 charges. So that's a decent little one, like for passive mitigation, to be fair. It's not a bad choice. Survival of the Fittest, it reduces the cooldown of Bark Skin and Survival Instincts by 33%. I find that having shorter cooldowns on my major abilities comes as a massive bonus, so I tend to run this just to sort of make sure that I've definitely got things to stay alive and survive. But Earth Warden is definitely a really, really strong choice too. And there's Guardian of Illume, which Mangle increases the duration of your next Iron Fur by 2 seconds, or the healing of your next Frenzy Regeneration by 20%. Could be viable, it could be viable. I'd probably put this as the most like how you want it raw, like whatever you want to choose. Like I think it's just personal preference at the end of the day, the play style that suits you when you play your class. But I think they're all fairly solid roles. But I think Survival of the Fittest is going to exit for me, and I think I'd probably take Earth Warden in second place. So in the last row, same again, we've just got Pulverize, which is you basically use your Thrash stacks to hit the enemy and gain some mitigation. So it reduces the damage they deal to you by 20%. It's okay, but I don't really enjoy using it, to be fair. Lunar Beam, so summons a beam of lunar light at your location, dealing 916 arcane damage and healing you for 6028 over 8 seconds. It's not bad, bit of a long cooldown though. And then there's Rend and Tear, which eats stack of thrash reduces the target's damage to you by 2%, increases your damage to them by 2%. It's a passive, it's constantly mitigating, and it's constantly doing damage. I just think this role's a bit of a no-brainer, to be fair. This is why I don't really use Pulverize, I don't use Lunar Beam. Rend and Tear for me is the way forward here, guys. But, yeah. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. And, yeah, maybe I could learn something from you guys. So, this has been the video for the Guardian Druid. If you've enjoyed it, then please leave a like. If you want to see some more tanking guides or reviews for Shadowlands if I get the beta or when the game launches, please do subscribe, because there'll be class guides, legendary reviews, stuff like that, and actual raiding guides. And I'm actually going to try and branch out into a bit more Mythic Plus as well this time around. Try and, you know, appeal to more people, because I realise that there is only so much raiding you can do until, like, it's not really relevant anymore. So yeah, let me know what you want in the comments, and I'll try and make it happen. But yeah, I also stream on Twitch. My Twitch will be in the description below as well. But until then, guys, I'll see you later. Take it easy. Bye now.